About a year ago, I put out a video on warming up, specifically talking about the purpose and philosophy behind a warm up, the components of a proper warm up, and what it means to warm up for a training day versus a competition day. I also gave a lot of examples on how to warm up specifically for the squat, the bench press, as well as the deadlift. And then also, we talked about the concept of load management. And as the head coach of the U.S. Classic Open national team, we are fresh off the IPF Classic World Championships in Lithuania. And I had a case study that I essentially wanted to share with you to discuss this very concept and how I think it was vital in the success of our lifter. And so that lifter that I want to talk to you about is Wascar Carpio. He is now a two-time IPF Classic Open World Champion. He won again this year in Lithuania. Of course, he won the preceding year in Malta. And more importantly this year is not only did he win his second title, but he qualified for Sheffield. Many of you will know that the requirements for Sheffield, or two of the key requirements, are that you, number one, win your weight class at IPF Classic Worlds, and number two, in doing so, that you achieve a total that is 95% of the current world record. Well, while Wascar won last year in Malta, he was unable to achieve the required total and therefore did not receive a Sheffield invite. However, this year, he was able to do both things. He was able to win and secure the invite to Sheffield. And I want to show you how his day unfolded and how we were very strategic in helping to make that happen. Let me start by saying that all of the credit, or I should say, if not all, the lion's share of the credit should go to Wascar. Wascar is an incredible athlete. He's unbelievably coachable. He executes at an extraordinarily high level, in addition to being just insanely strong for his body weight. And so he's really brought a lot of focus and attention to the 59 kilo class, and rightfully so. His recent performances have been nothing short of exceptional, and I'm just really excited to see him go to Sheffield next year in 2025 and see what he might be able to uncork there. But meanwhile, let's talk about how his day unfolded and then how we utilized specifically load management strategies to save gas in the tank and make sure that he had enough left in the tank to go out and do the job and secure the 637.5 kilo total required for Sheffield. Taking a look at our nominations for the 2024 IPF Classic Open World Championships in Druskininkai, Lithuania. In the 59 kilo class, of course, we have our American Wascar Carpio, nominated first, ranked number one, fresh off his 638 kilo performance at our Powerlifting America Classic Nationals. He was ranked number one. And then, of course, Ivan Campano from Spain was checking in at number two with a 602.5 kilo total. Mohamed El Hamali from Libya didn't end up even posting. He didn't show up and didn't compete. So that 597.5 kilo total you see there is frankly irrelevant because he did not compete. So all of our focus was on Wascar executing his plan, securing the W, and of course going for that Sheffield invite while trying to fend off the charge from Ivan Campano and then of course Antoine Garcia of France. And it would be Antoine who would apply a little bit more pressure than Ivan when Ivan didn't quite have the day that he wanted to have. Okay, taking a look at Wascar's objectives. They were clear, concise, and very simple. Number one, the priority is to win. That is and always should be the priority at an IPF World Championships. There is one day out of the calendar year when you can become an IPF World Champion. There are 364 other days out of the year when you can secure personal bests, personal records, so on and so forth. Secondly, Wascar wanted to secure the Sheffield invite, which he was unable to do in 2023 because he missed his final deadlift. And this time and last time, the total that he needed was 95% of the current world record, which is 669.5, held by Sergey Fedosienko. So the number that we were chasing was 637.5 kilos. And what you have to understand is that sometimes, and this is no disrespect to the other 59 kilo contenders, but Wascar is literally and figuratively in a class by himself when it comes to strength and his ability to execute on game day. And so, but sometimes when you are chasing a metric or chasing a specific number that you have to hit in order to qualify for something, that is a non-moving target. It never changes. It is 637.5 throughout the entire meet. It is not as though, when your competitor misses a lift, that target comes down. That target remains the same regardless of what your competitors do. So in that particular case, not only were we chasing victory, but we were aggressively pursuing this 637.5 kilo total. And what I want to share with you is how Wascar's day unfolded and how we needed to adjust in real time in order to make that happen. All right, so let's start off in the squats. This is Wascar's third attempt squat. We were potentially projecting 225 kilos, 496 pounds, but we took the lower hanging fruit here. This is 490 pounds or 222.5 kilos. As you can see, that was almost a limit lift for Wascar, so a good attempt selection on our behalf. Likewise, in the bench press, this is 147.5 or 325, and almost a limit lift there. He probably had about another 2.5 kilos. So what I want to share with you here is taking a look at our standings. And as I said first, Wascar hit 222.5 kilos in the squat and then 147.5 in the bench press. Now, we were potentially projecting a 225 kilo squat for Wascar and potentially a 150 kilo bench press for Wascar as well. But we ended up taking the lower hanging fruit based upon how the second attempts moved. And this is a situation where not only do you want to win, but it's better to be safe than sorry. Because if you overextend yourself and you miss your third attempts, you're going to make this goal total down here of 637.5 kilos much, much harder. And you're going to have to pull bigger. So anyway, this is a look at our original plan based upon what we had. We had 222.5, 147. So that puts our subtotal at 370. Our original deadlift plan was right here. We were going to go 247.5 to 62.5 to 272.5. Now, if we had stuck with that original plan, that would have put us at 642.5 kilos, which is 5 kilos more than required. And I also could tell, this is a meet, this is the highest stakes meet in terms of it's a world championships. It is overseas. There's significant travel that has to take place. And while Wascar has been has been known, I should say, to execute at a very high level, and while he did secure a 638 kilo total at our Powerlifting America Nationals, doing that abroad is a different story, and it's a little bit tighter, and it's a little bit harder for some of the aforementioned reasons. And so we also had to be mindful of the competitors that were behind us. Now, as I said before, as the day unfolded, the key guy that we were going to be watching here was Antoine Garcia of France. Ivan Campeno just didn't have the day that he wanted and pretty much crashed and burned, so we were able to just keep our eyes set on Antoine. So if you notice here, Wascar weighed in at the limit, 59 kilos, and so Antoine had body weight advantage. He squatted the same amount as Wascar, but he benched 15 kilos less. So if you notice, you take an inventory, add subtotal here, and we were in the lead by the tune of 15 kilos with a score of 370 to 355. But the all-important thing that you want to take note of at subtotal is what is the forecasted total? Or internationally, they call this the prognosis, but we call it the forecast, same thing. So after opening deadlifts, we knew that Wascar, with our original adjusted plan of 247.5, he would have been at a 617.5 total. But we decided to adjust the plan in real time because we knew, again, that we didn't need the 642. This was the number that we were shooting for, and we didn't want to overextend ourselves. So with a subtotal of 370, in order to get to 637.5, we needed 267.5 kilos, which would matter-of-factly tie Wascar's personal best deadlift. As I said, based upon his training, he and his coach, Steve DeNovi, were projecting potentially as high as 272.5, but we didn't need that. We needed less then. So we decided to adjust. So we dropped his opener 7.5 kilos to 240 kilos. Why? Because that's roughly 90%-ish, if you will, of 267.5. Opening here, you can make an argument and say, well, why didn't you just stay here and jump 10 kilos and 10 kilos and you could still end at 267.5? It's because we used the gas tank analogy. We did not want to use up more energy than required and use up gas in Wascar's tank. We wanted to preserve it. So we dropped his opener to 240. So as I said, based upon the subtotal, we had a 15 kilo lead over Antoine, but more importantly, it would only be a 10 kilo spread after opening deadlifts because Antoine was opening big here. Now, what I did know is that Antoine's personal best deadlift in competition is 247.5. So that looked like a big number to me. And I thought one of two things. Number one, he has either made tremendous deadlift progress and is projecting much higher than a 245 kilo or than a 247.5 kilo deadlift, or as is known to happen, the French lifters doing French things, opening higher and taking smaller jumps. So I thought that this was kind of an inflated number. Turned out to be true. But Antoine opened at 245, which was 5 kilos heavier, and so he was going to be behind us by 10 kilos. So all the while we are pursuing this Sheffield qualifying total of 637.5, and in order to get there, we needed this number. I am mindful in real time of what Antoine is doing so that we don't get caught from behind, because he basically has to out deadlift us by 15 kilos. Okay, so I know that whatever Wascar's number is, he's going to have to take 15 kilos more, tie us, and beat us by virtue of the lower body weight. And oh, by the way, he's got the higher lot number. So, having said all of that, we adjusted Wascar's deadlift plan. And in doing so, what I want to share with you, most importantly, is how we adjusted his warm-ups and so forth. So, when you take a look at this right here, this was the original plan that we'd come up with. I had gotten on a strategy call with his coach, Steve DeNovi. And this was the original plan that was submitted to me and that Steve and I agreed upon. And so these were going to be his warm-ups right here, all right, ending at 501, 227.5. And as I said, these were going to be the original attempts. But as I said, we took the lower hanging fruit. We took the smaller, the B option in both the squat and the bench press, and ended with the 370 kilo subtotal. So what we had to do was we adjusted. We made adjustments in real time. And what I wanted to do was save gas in the tank. So we essentially changed, you'll notice, these last three warm-ups. If you look at this is what was submitted versus what we changed. We kept the first two the same, and then I shaved off 10 kilos on the third warm-up, another 10 kilos on the fourth warm-up, and we dropped this last warm-up to 220 instead of 227.5. So all that comes to the tune of us saving 27.5 kilos, which is 61 pounds. This was the total load that Wascar lifted in the warm-up room prior to going out on the platform. This is what he was going to lift had we not made any changes. And yes, I think this contributed to his performance. I think this was a significant factor, given the fact that Wascar traveled overseas, competing at the highest level with stricter standards and some stiffer competition, and all the while chasing this Sheffield qualifying total. So I think this was instrumental. As I said in the introduction, Wascar gets the credit. He's the one that walked out on the platform. He is the one that executed with surgical precision. Having said that, I think we were wise to adjust this warm-up plan, manage load, we talk about load management, and just allow him to lift less in the warm-up room, all right? And this is what I've talked about in my previous video, and I'm going to drop a link below so that you can access that original video on warming up. In terms of load management, you look here, and a lot of these jumps, these are easy progressions. You know, this is a red plate, 2 reds, 3 reds, then you add a yellow, and then you load it to 501 to get to that. And these are really good warm-ups if you're going to open at 247.5. But oftentimes what happens in the heat of battle is you have athletes who are not coachable, all right, and who are so idiosyncratic and habitual that they want to stick to this warm-up strategy no matter what. And Wascar could have, stuck to his guns, so to speak, and said, nah, this is how I warm up in training and so forth. But as I said in the previous video, a training day is not game day. They do not feel the same. For many of the reasons that I mentioned in my previous video, I'm not going to go into all of those. You can access that video. But Wascar, in the heat of the moment, was phenomenal. He is the ultimate competitor. He is so coachable. He is so wise beyond his years. And he said, you know what? He goes, let's just roll with it. I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to do whatever you say. And so I loaded these warm-ups, and I just told him, I said, hey, man, just trust me. All right? And these were singles in the back. I don't even know that he took more than a single with 70 kilos, maybe a couple of reps. But then we shaved off, as I said, 27.5 kilos by doing this warm-up strategy. So he was not stuck to idiosyncratic behavior. He wasn't stuck to habit. He was coachable. He remained free in his mind in that moment and said, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to execute this final number. And so hats off goes to Wascar, and that's exactly what we did. And now let's take a look and roll through these attempts so you can see firsthand what I mean about saving gas in the tank back here so that we can ultimately get to that final number that's required. Here's a quick look at one of those deadlift warm-ups that I told you about. That was 160 kilos. And now Wascar is going out on the platform for his opening attempt at 240 kilos, 529 pounds. Absolutely destroys it. Easy opener, saves gas in the tank, brings his total to 610 kilos. And now he's coming out for his second attempt. This is 255, so he took a 15 kilo jump, 562 pounds. And this is going to move just like a second attempt should move. Very nice, well done. At that point, we basically won the competition. There is no other number to take. This was the number that we needed all along. 267.5 kilos, 589 pounds. This will tie his personal best, almost tie his PB total, and give him 637.5 kilos, which is what he needs to secure the Sheffield invite. And as you can see, that is an absolute limit lift, pristine execution, and he did it. Unbelievable attempt by Wascar Carpio, and just all of the emotions come pouring out at this time, knowing that he's not only won, that he's finally done it. He achieved his goal, and he is on his way to Sheffield 2025. Just an amazing performance. Here's the lift again in slow motion. And you tell me, if we had done those original warm-ups in the back, would he have had enough gas left in the tank? Taking you back to our interactive score sheet for the last time, checking out our final results. You notice, once again, this was our original plan, which was too much, was unnecessary. It was not what was required on the day, so we made adjustments on the fly. Wascar remained coachable, stayed in the moment, and executed like a pro. Hitting 3 deadlifts, finishing with the 267.5, which secured his second. That's back-to-back. He's a repeat champion in the 59 kilo class and hit 637.5 kilos, which secured the Sheffield invite. Antoine Garcia came in second place with a total of 610, missed his last deadlift, wouldn't have mattered anyway, still wouldn't have caught Wascar, so Wascar essentially had the meet wrapped up with his second deadlift. If you notice, he actually, the 240, almost had the meet wrapped up. He just would have lost on body weight had we not made these 2 deadlifts, but that was never an issue for us. So anyway, just an extraordinary day for Wascar. Just really want to congratulate him on a job well done. So as you can see, Wascar executed like an absolute pro, did everything that was asked of him on game day, just remained flexible, didn't fall into habit or idiosyncratic behavior, and was able to just adjust on the fly. And that's what pros do. And for my part, I was in constant collaboration with his coach, Steve DeNovi, who also remained very collaborative and very open to adjusting. Obviously, Steve wasn't in Lithuania, but I was in touch with him via text message. And, he knows that when he's not able to be there on game day for Wascar, that fortunately this was the second time that I've worked with Wascar. We had a really successful run at PA Nationals back in March, and then we're able to basically repeat that performance overseas. And so Steve, was very helpful in installing a game plan with the understanding that, hey, look, on game day, sometimes things need to be adjusted in real time, and sometimes you need to call an audible, and that's exactly what we did. And Wascar did what was required, and hats off go to him. But this is all to show you that load management is vital and is very important. And I do think that saving Wascar those 27.5 kilos in the warm-up room, given how his third attempt deadlift looked, that was an absolute limit lift. I mean, if you'd have sneezed or a fly would have landed on the bar, I'm not so sure that lift would have gone. It was sticky, it was a little bit untidy, but it certainly satisfied the standard to the tune of 3 white lights, and that's all that matters. And so credit goes to Wascar, but I just wanted to share that with you. Check out the links below, including the last video that I had on warming up, which goes into a lot more detail. And then, of course, if you're looking to take a deeper dive into game day strategy, philosophy, psychology, the data behind our data-driven attempt selection approach, just check out the link below for my game day coaching manual. And as always, thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next one.